Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation. Today we cover Inxs, Listen Like Thieves in an album rewind. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, it's Peter Kerr from Daydream Nation, and look who's back, Armando Vandetti. How are you, mate?
Hello. Good. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's a bit of a rainy day in Sydney. Hopefully it will clear up, and we're in the middle of summer. And looking forward to doing today's show, which is going to cover Inxs and their fifth album, Listen Like Thieves. So as normal, this is a deep album dive show. Armando and I will talk about our first impressions of the album, do a track by track analysis, give it a bit of a synopsis at the end, and take it from there. So Armando, why don't you hit us off with some stats about the album?
Be glad to, Peter. Thank you for having me on again.
Not a problem.
The album, it's Inxs' fifth album. It follows up the album The Swing from 1984. It was released on, yes, there you go. Gotta love a man with a prop. And it was released October 14th, 1985 on the Atlantic label in North America. I believe Via Music in Australia and Mercury Records internationally, Europe and the rest of the world. Produced by Chris Thomas, who was, I believe that's where he started to work with the band off and on. Chris Thomas has also worked with groups like The Pretenders. And in terms of chart positions, ladies and gentlemen, it was a number one album in Australia. It hit number 24 on the Canadian charts. And in the US, it hit number 11.
Yeah. So it was their breakthrough album.
It was a slow build in terms of their popularity. But again, you got to understand too, this was at a point in time, ladies and gentlemen, too, where record companies gave bands chances to build up their momentum. You know, you were signed to say 4 or 5 record album deals, and you were allowed to release maybe 2 or 3 albums to see if you were able to build up your fan base. These days, one single and you're not, if it doesn't hit, you're gone. So take from that what you will. Just in terms of sales, it is 4 times platinum, went 4 times platinum in Australia, 2 times platinum in the US, and a worldwide sale of 3 million albums.
Okay, not too shabby at all.
No, not too shabby at all.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Armando, tell us about In the Day, your first impression of this album, or any particular songs of this album. You may not have purchased the album in the day, but any of the songs, what was your first impression?
Well, the first video that was released back in the day when channels like Much Music in Canada had videos. The first single was What You Need. And it was sort of an animation, but an animation type of video. First impression of it, more of a harder edge sound in terms of the production, in terms of the drums, and in terms of the guitar, more like a lot of heavy rhythm guitar. I like the sax playing on the track as done by I can't even remember.
Jelly.
Yeah, Kirk. Kirk. The track itself was very funk oriented, very very funk driven, synthesized bass in terms of recording techniques. It was what the band needed to get sort of start to build up their profile in North America. Basically, one of the last songs that was worked on for the album, the the story goes is that the producer, Chris Thomas, with everything that they had demoed so far, he didn't think they had a hit yet. So there was a demo of a track called Funk Number 13. He wanted them to take that, go back in the studio and work on that and develop that idea that they had for it. And it was basically done within like 36 hours. You know,
No pressure.
no pressure at all, right? So when that was released, it did garner a lot of attention in terms of, okay, this is something that the fan base can sink their teeth into.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, just a little segue to that. So Chris Thomas at the end of the sessions for recording for this album didn't think that the quality of the songs was at the right level, which is strange, as we will attest going through the track by track. And he said we needed a hit. So they searched through demos, and there was a demo that the guys had been knocking around for a while called Funk Song Number 13. And Chris Thomas was absolutely knocked out by it. And he said, I could listen to this song for at least 10 minutes in high rotation. And they worked on it, and that was their first US top 5 hit. So, and the rest is history. That started off the whole Inxs. So I guess talking about this song, the thing that I like is the blend between funk and a bit of crunch heavy guitars. So in the verses, you've got the typical staccato-y type of Inxs funk guitar, and then it goes into the bridge, into the chorus, that real power chord, which has got that heavy edge, and that's what I liked about this whole song. It had that heavy edge, and I can see how it conquered America and was radio friendly because they loved the power chord. And they love that harder edge. And I mean, the previous album of Inxs, The Swing, was very synth pop, very new wave. This was a progression into something that was a bit harder and more guitar orientated. So the synthesizers were sort of tuned back or sort of muffled, and the guitars were much more prominent, and this song is the one that really put them to the fore. Yeah,
but I agree. But then again, like I was saying at the beginning of the show, this was also, again, at the time where the record companies would give the band that they signed, the bands, a chance to develop their sound. They were allowed to have 4 albums before to sort of build up to this. And I was listening to The Swing yesterday, and I do, there are similarities in production, with the exception of Original Sin that was produced in New York by Nile Rodgers. I do find that the drum sound in terms of production on the rest of the album is pretty much in line with what we have here. It's just more continued on this album more. I think. But it's what you need was what the band needed in order to kickstart their longevity in North America. So
absolutely, it's one of my favorite songs by them, and I think I haven't seen them live.
The behind it.
Yes.
No, sorry.
Absolutely.
Too, because the message is basically saying, whatever you think you're facing in life, you can get over it. You can get over it and deal with the adversity and just get on with your life and make your life happy. Whatever,
simple but direct.
Exactly. Whatever happens in your life, you can deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Armando, what do you think of the track 2, which is Listen Like Thieves?
Listen Like Thieves, for me, was one of my favorite tracks from the album. It had more of a dance feel to it. And the video that was released, I noticed that the studio version, I believe the video for it that was released in North America, I don't know if it was released in Australia, but it was a live version. So it was a faster pace in terms of tempo, and there was more percussion on the live version. And because I believe they had like I'm not sure, I believe they had like backing musicians when they were doing it live, because there was more percussion elements on it. I like it. It's a very dance oriented track, as I call it. As I said before, certain songs are ass shakers. So I mean, for me, it was a very ass shaking kind of a track. And again, it's saying, the track is talking about, the subject matter is talking about people who are basically looking around them to find something to hold on to, and possibly thinking, how can I make the fast buck? How can I get on the fast track and get to where I want to get? And, by any means necessary. But I mean, the song is basically saying, sorry, only one cup of tea today. It's all in your hands. What you think, you think you need these outside influences to get you where you want to go, but it's all within you to get yourself motivated and off your ass and move and do what you need to do to get where you need to get to. So that's what I like about the track. And again, it's an ass shaker of a track.
Yeah, absolutely. I like your take on it. And I'll go one step further about the lyrics. I think it's maybe has a bit of a religious pot shot, like people down on their knees and praying to false gods, where everything in life is within your hands. It's taking a very humanist approach. So maybe it's an observational lyric about religion. Everyone down on their knees. So I think it's got an interesting sort of a bit of depth in the lyrics on this one, and it is an ass shaker at the same time. So you get to think and you get to dance, and it's got a deep funk groove to it. A good version of this was done by a band called Was Not Was that had a number of pop hits in the 80s and 90s, worth checking out off one of their albums.
Did they do a version of this? I wasn't.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Cool.
But I think this was one of the last singles. It didn't chart as high, but it certainly had a bit of momentum and became a bit of the staple in the Inxs show. And I think it's an outstanding, strong track. One thing you'll find as we go a deeper dive into this album is it's very top heavy with the singles on side one. Yeah. Which was prevalent in the 80s, where all the hits were loaded onto side one, and side two had a bit more of the deeper grooves. But this is a case study.
That's right. And well, before we go any further, we should maybe, if it's okay with you, mention who was on the album, who played on the album. You had Michael Hutchence on vocals, Andrew Ferris on guitar and keys. You had Tim Ferris on synths and guitars. You had John Ferris, sense of trend going on here, on drums and percussion. You had Gary Beers on bass, and Kirk Pengilly on sax and guitars.
Yeah, thanks.
So the group was a very much a family affair type of a situation.
Absolutely, family affair and very tight. And when you've got that synergy and bar the tragic death of Michael Hutchence, where there were lineup changes with the singer, you really had the core of the band around the Farris brothers and had that magic. All right, Armando, let's go to the next track number 3, which is Kiss the Dirt, Falling Down the Mountain.
Yes, this is also, I believe this was the 3rd single release from the album. It's also another one of my favorite songs. What I like about this song in terms of the drumming, production of the drums on this one and Listen Like Thieves, there's more of a fullness to the drums, more of a punch. more of a snap and a punch in terms of the bass and the snare working together. I think this is a beautiful song. I think it's a song for me. What, of course, ladies and gentlemen, songs are open to interpretation, and I'm about to interpret this. And for me, the song is about learning from failure, like learning from the learning from humility. You know, it never hurts to fail once in a while, right? It never hurt. There was a saying I've heard somebody say once, that it never hurts to go crazy once in a while, like to sort of let go and to sort of just whatever frustrations you were feeling or experiencing, whatever way you need to do it, release it in a safe way, but just, it doesn't hurt. It never hurts to just let go once in a while. And this song for me is what it's talking about perfectly. And it is a beautiful constructed pop track.
I agree with you. I agree with you totally. Couple of things I want to mention is that Andrew Farris was asked about the background to the song, the lyrics, and this is a fairly direct quotation. When you're a little kid, you play in the dirt. If you've got some dirt to play on, a bit of earth, you might build a sand castle or dig a hole in your backyard. Just messing around, but you're always going to kiss the dirt in the end. Everyone reverts to the earth in the end, everything. And the allegory of everyone falls off the mountain eventually. So I thought that was a nice little take on, you know, sort of in, the background to the lyrics of this song. And I think this is a really, really neat lyric.
It is. And it's also the idea, well, I take from that, the idea of deconstruction, sort of stripping away all the difficulties and the you know, the layering, and just get down to the basic common denominator in life for yourself every once in a while. And that never should never be an issue. Sorry.
Absolutely. Mention the video clip, the memorable video clip where they were basically transported into a place called Cooper Pedy in South Australia in the middle of nowhere. They were literally flown overnight from the US into the video shoot and then back to the US. So the word I would describe as whirlwind. It's a very memorable video clip, and that certainly got them a lot of traction and popularity. As we're going through these tracks, I'm still scratching my head at Chris Thomas saying he didn't think the quality of songs was up to the right standard. I think in retrospect, he was thinking we need something that is just such a sugar hit. Then the rest of the audience will gravitate to the other songs on the album. Maybe he got his words. He didn't express it in the right way, because I can't understand, because I think the quality of the songs on this album are great.
You can see the progression happening.
Yeah.
You can see the progression. And I think what he was trying to say, probably very ineloquently, is that we need a song that's going to grab the listener by the throat and pull them in, and say a song that says, we've arrived. This is a track. Come in for the ride. You'll enjoy it. You know, and
I mean, if the first song flops, it's very hard to get traction on the second single. So he's probably looking from a commerce point of view, that we've got to have that hit on straight off the bat, and he didn't hear that on the album. But I think it was a bit ineloquent to say that the songs weren't of the right standard.
It could have very well been that he said what he said, and maybe he didn't mean it that way, but obviously that sort of kickstarted them in order to try and to look through this the demo of Funk number 13 and just
Yep.
work on it and kick them in the ass and say, okay, we got to get this done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But let me ask you a question. I'm going to do a bit of a flip here. Track number 4, Shine Like It Does. What are your thoughts on track number 4?
I think it's got beautiful orchestration. This is, to me, kind of their entry point into stadium rock and a more widescreen sort of sound. I think it sends a very positive message. I think it's a fine track. And again, to me, I heard this song on the radio in the day, and it was one of those ones that was so catchy. So I'm still scratching my head about what Chris Thomas was saying about the standard of material, because this song to me screams out single. What do you think of this one?
I think whether or not they meant to do it, they basically, the first side is top heavy in terms of the first 4 tracks. They basically knocked it out of the park. I think, you see, for me, I was looking at the messages behind and within the lyrics. To me, it's a very nice mid-tempo number, very beautiful arrangement. And it basically says that you will find, at some point in time, as long as you're patient, you will find whatever it is that will make you happy in this world.
A lot of positive messages on this album. So to me, I think the band is in a very good headspace. And, they were touring their proverbial butts off in America, just touring, supporting, doing the college circuit, east to west coast, up and down, because where Australia is based was very hard for bands to break through worldwide remotely. In today's society, with the internet and social connections, it's a lot easier. But in those days, you actually had to go over, relocate and slog. And there's been so many stories of Australian bands, great Australian bands that have gone over to the States, to North America, and then come back tail between their legs, where they've been unsuccessful. It may have been that showcase gig that was a disaster, or not having the right connections. But Inxs very early in their career identified that America was the key to success. And then the rest of it would just fall into place. And they were very hardworking. And to be quite frank, around this era, I can't recall them playing Australia too much.
There are situations where bands tend to concentrate on different territories. Like if they want to build up if an American band wants to build up their European fan base, they tour more in Europe or in the UK, wherever that they believe that their popularity should be punched up a little bit or beefed up a little bit. And I guess they, in Inxs, believed that they needed to sort of broaden their US appeal,
100%.
And it worked. Just another little quick note. This album is good. It is good. But I kind of compare this album to Jethro Tull's Benefit, which was the album that Jethro Tull did before Aqualung in 71. Benefit came out in 70, Aqualung came out in 71. Aqualung was a massive hit for them. Benefit was the album that was like a good transition, a good launching pad for them to start to gain their popularity. Not that this album, Listen Like Thieves, is bad in any way. I just think that this was a good transition point for them in North America, because the following album, Kick, just in the stratosphere. It just took off, right? Indeed.
And that's when they were in the peak of their powers. So
exactly.
To me, I think at the peak, the Everest was Kick, and then it went slowly down, just in popularity, in sales, maybe not artistically. But that was definitely the peak. It was the right time, the right place, lightning in a bottle. Yeah.
But then again, I'm glad that we chose that you. Well, I'm going to give you the credit because you deserve all the credit for this. I'm just along for the ride, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm glad that you picked this album to focus on, because picking Kick to do a deep album dive would have been too easy. And I never do things easy, so I like to try and give myself a challenge in that respect.
I'll share my opinion of Kick later in the show. All right, let's go to the next one. Good and Bad Times. What do
I think? What do I have in my notes? To be honest with you, this is one of the weaker tracks for me.
don't like. Not a big fan. It's a Kirk Pengelly number.
I can sort of. I mean, I could sort of possibly skip it when it comes on. It's not really one that kind of sticks out to me.
Okay.
As an album track.
I had it as a Duran Duran sounding. It had that really heavy bass line. So Gary Beers, really heavy funk bass line. Reminded me a bit of John Taylor. And then you had that sax line that reminded me of Duran Duran. You had you've got the staccato guitars, which is the Inxs trademark.
That is, it's always been basically the trademark.
Yeah, funking it up. And then you've got this heavy guitar line in the chorus, which is prevalent all the way through this, where the guitars are ramped up. I think it's not the strongest track, but I don't dislike it. I question the track placing because I think the closing track on side one is very important. You should, in my opinion, have the best songs on first track, last track on side one, and exactly the same on side two. You want to will the listener to flip it over. So
I'm just going to put a question out to you. Had they repositioned or put in this time as track 5 on side 1?
Yes. You know what? Then you would have
it would have been
perfect.
Bang, bang, bang all the way down, and then
absolutely over. It would have been so top heavy, it would have weighed down the record player because you've got you got so many.
Oh my God! Yeah, you're right. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, it's not. There's just something off with the sequencing here.
Yeah.
This is why you and I get along so well.
Yeah, no,
we think
it would have been the absolute perfect Inxs. I mean, if we did a show about the perfect sequence of Inxs songs on an LP, this is as close as the perfect side one, but you just swap Good and Bad Times for this time, and it would have been perfect.
Yeah, and that's not to say that the songs that would be on side 2 or the second half of a CD, for those of you who don't remember vinyl, would be bad. It's just you want to get the listener in as quickly and as steadily as possible to say, okay, these songs are good, like all the way through. So you want to get them sucked in,
absolutely,
and maintain their attention. So it's funny how you and I thought the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we flip over the album and we go to side 2, track 1, which is Biting Bullets. What do you think of this song?
I like it. It's a short song. It's a short little piece. I believe it's only like 2 minutes and change. It's a very sort of new wave kind of track. It is new wavy, and I like the melody line on the keyboards. And again, I'm looking for the meaning of the lyrics, and to me, what it's saying in the lyrics is that this individual is questioning society around him, like what's going to happen to him, what's going to happen to his, to his future, to his kids' future if he has kids, and and are they ready for what could possibly happen? Good or bad, that's how I took it. I mean, again, lyrics are open to interpretation, and I interpreted it that way. So I mean,
Yeah.
but I do like it. I do like it.
Yeah, nice take. I sort of focused more on the musical side than the lyrics. It's got a really unusual chord progression, kind of oriental sounding. To me, it's like a cousin of the swing. I could imagine that this song could easily slot into the track listing of the swing. It's very post-punk, and it's got a robust energy to it. I think it's a nice little opener.
Like a little punchy. It's a very punchy oriented type of arrangement to it. And
it's one of those deep cuts that people don't really talk about, but it should get probably more kudos. I think I have no issue at opening side 2. I think it's got robust energy, and Inxs are in full flight on this one. I like it.
Yeah, I do believe that Biting Bullets is a really strong way to open side 2. I really do. I think it's a good track. Again, it's only like 2 minutes 45 seconds or something, and not even that long. It's just a very quick opener. I think it's great. I think it's a good song.
And folks, this album clocks in under 40 minutes, as most albums should.
37 minutes, and as most albums should. As my esteemed colleague here believes, ladies and gentlemen, I am of the opposite opinion, in that if the music is good on an album, it doesn't matter how long it is, because if the music is good enough, it will take you from point A to point whatever, and you won't even notice what time it is, because it's that good of an album. So I mean,
save that for another day, that discussion.
That's a show idea.
That's a show idea. Absolutely. All right, we spoke about this
show, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I won't.
Sorry.
No, I won't. All good. This time we just spoke about it. So tell us what you think about this song.
This time is basically, to me, it's almost like a Rolling Stones track, like with the gang vocals on the chorus.
I can imagine Jagger doing this.
Yeah.
Yes, that's inspired.
Yeah,
I could. But a bit more of less funk and a bit more of the Stones doing their R&B. Just a little bit off the beat and a bit looser.
Very much so. Yeah. I mean, it was the final single, I believe, from the album to be. Was it released in Australia as a single?
Yes, it was, and it got played on radio, and it still gets played on radio today. Look, to be quite frank, there's about 4 or 5 songs on this album that very much get played on classic hits radio.
No, this album, I must say too, in Canada, I can't speak for the US because I don't live there. But I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that this album, like tracks like What You Need, are still played on Canadian radio, like classic radio, classic pop, or classic rock. Pop rock, it's all the same genre these days, ladies and gentlemen. You can't, differentiate anymore, unfortunately. But I mean, this album does, I would think, behind Kick, does get a lot of notoriety. But to get back to this time, the subject matter, I almost thought it was a political, governments talking about, who is wrong and what they did in terms of like starting, doing having political agendas and stuff. But when I listened to the lyrics, it's about relationship. They don't know if they want to continue, but they don't know if they can be apart, and they're hoping and praying to find their answers somewhere in this world or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like in their minds, like, are they gonna be together? Are they gonna be apart? Can they stand to be apart? Should they even try? That kind of thing. It's kind of like a yin and yang kind of thing. Like, will I, won't I? And I mean, that goes, ladies and gentlemen, that's universal. I think it very, very much is, right? Yeah, I like the song. I mean, it was a good, choice for a single. I think maybe
Yes.
had they released it maybe before Listen Like Thieves, maybe it would have done a little. I don't think it charted as well as, I think as the singles were released, the chart placings went lower and lower. But I think had they released this, say, as a second single or a third single, I think maybe it would have charted a bit higher. I'm not sure. I'm no professional on this, but I do like it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's to me, I think this is a stadium song. So there are a lot of songs on this album that are built, that are built for the stadium type show that they were they were a couple of years away from doing, because it's got a big sound. Even though there's an acoustic guitar prevalent in the song, you can see that it's built for that big sort of auditorium. It's got a big sound about it. It's up tempo, and it's very radio friendly. It's a great song. It's a really, really catchy song. And let's face it, guys, audience, this has so many damn hooks in it. Yeah. And that's what makes pop music or rock music. I think it's rock. I'm not saying pop because pop is popular. This is rock music to me. And it's, if you've got the hooks, then you're on your way. And plus, it doesn't hurt that you've got one of the most charismatic, lead singers around.
I mean, all due respect, and this is a family show, but does he not drip sexuality like right off the bloody picture?
He's probably a greatest beside Bon Scott, he would be Australia's greatest frontman.
There was just so much in terms of his presentation on stage.
Yep.
That,
charisma. Some people have got it, and he had it. He had a fine voice. He was a great singer and also a front person. And for our viewers, I will give two recommendations to catch on YouTube. Live Aid Australia did their version of Live Aid concert, and Inxs played a 4 or 5 song set. Watch that; it's absolutely killer. I think it was the concert was called Oz for Africa, and there were a lot of songs around this time. I think they played What You Need, and also the concert for Prince Charles and Lady Diana, or Princess Diana. They came to Australia and they did a special Royal Gala show, and they wheeled out all these Australian acts. But Inxs did a 5 or 6 song show, and I was watching that last night. And I was going, by jingo, they were really at the top of their live powers. They were tight. He was working the stage, so
he could have a crowd in the palm of his hand. And just getting back to this song this time, you could just see him just pointing to the audience, and you could just see them picking up the chorus and just singing while he would just stand there, like saying, held out the mic to them. And do you know what I mean? Like, he had that kind of control and that kind of charisma that he could do that. So
there's been a lot of appraisal of the band, and this is not necessarily my view. A diamond lead singer with a B grade band. So I don't agree with that. Yeah, but that's a lot of critics, in the day were unfairly just saying a gold carrot lead singer with a B grade band behind him.
I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think there were 6 individuals. Maybe some were more quiet than others, but I do believe that they viewed it as a band, as a cohesive unit. And for people who are watching who may not know Inxs that well, or maybe think that Michael Hutchence was just, the pretty boy out front, that could just sing. If you look at the credits, and by the way, all this information brought to you today is brought to you by Wikipedia. Thank you. If you look at the credits, the songs that were on the albums were co-written by Hutchence and Andrew Ferris, primarily. So he had a hand in the writing and the crafting of this music. So anyone that believes that he didn't, get that out of your head right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Yeah, well, the success story is a couple of things. You've got good music. You've got a relationship of the band that are super tight. Mm-hmm. You've got somebody who could sing well, somebody that presents well, and you've got a hard work ethic. They went to America. So all of those ingredients compartmentalized, and that turned into the Inxs story and why this album did well. And this album did even bloody better.
Yeah. If I was to compare in terms of lead singers, I would compare him to an 80s version of Jim Morrison.
Yes, with a bit of Jagger swag as well. There's
Jagger
some video
swag.
clips. Yeah, there's some video clips of Hutchence, like I think Just Keep Walking. He is just doing the moves just like Jagger.
He's got the attitude of the swagger of Jagger. And the smoldering sensuality and mystery of Jim Morrison.
Yes.
So, and that's my.
I agree with all of that. All right. So we are up to the instrumental, which is called Three Sisters. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it's a beautiful piece of music. I think that it offers a nice break on the second side, because you had all this stuff coming before it in terms of the first side, like very hard-edged staccato guitars and very heavy drums, like in terms of the beat, like rhythm and stuff. I think that this offers a very sort of somber break in the album.
Palette cleanser.
Yeah, a palette. That's you are beautiful with the phrases and.
I've been using that a little bit in some of my shows because I've got this. I've got this expression. I might have picked it up off you, this expression, but I've got this expression for light and shade.
Yeah, that's me.
Sometimes sometimes they've got to put something a little bit just to break up. Otherwise, that the album is just all the same, and it's like a palette cleanser.
Yeah, this to me, even the imagery in my head when I heard this song, it's very exotic in terms of the arrangements, in terms of the playing. It almost drums up to me in my head like a desert scene, like a mirage scene in a desert, And it's a wonderful piece of music. And
can I ask you a question? You've been to Australia, haven't you?
Yeah, 2018.
Did you go to the Blue Mountains?
No.
Okay. So there's a place, there's a mountain range in New South Wales called the Blue Mountains, and there are these three famous rock formations called the Three Sisters.
Okay.
And I had the headphones on, and I could hear all these bird noises, like Australian bird noises, and I think it's just an instrumental, but it's inspired by the Australian outback or the Blue Mountains.
Okay.
And as I said, it's a nice little palette cleanser. It's just a instrumentation, and it breaks it up nicely. So that's my interpretation.
I kind of, in terms of, it did conjure up that imagery for me. But in terms of the title Three Sisters, I kind of looked at that as a counterpoint to having the three brothers in the band.
That's another take on it. There
Do you know what I mean? Like
yes,
brothers.
Yep, absolutely.
All
right, next one is Same Direction.
Well, again, it's more of very rhythmic driven track. Ray Cooper, who is a percussionist, who's worked with people like Jeff Lynne and Elton John in the past. You'll know him when you see him live. It's a very, again, rhythmic, pulsating track. And the lyrics, I mean, they're repeated. The verses are repeated in terms of like the movement of the song, like from point A to point B. But I mean, the subject matter of the track for me is just saying that, you know, people in society are basically all looking for the same thing. They all want to be accepted as one. Whether you're, well, again, I'm not to get political, but whether you're gay, straight, left wing, right wing, political affiliation,
everybody inclusive.
Everyone
yeah,
inclusive.
one direction. Yeah.
Everyone is looking for the universal collective as one.
And I think that was very much the philosophy of Hutchins and the band.
Yeah.
Because he was a man of the world and very well traveled, very well read. Mm-hmm. He was no dope. He was very smart.
No.
But I think it sort of summed up the philosophy of Michael Hutchins, who was one interesting cat, I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, I know. He was deep.
And I still think there is there's been a few movies that have been made in Australia. I don't know if they've come over there, but I still think there is a rock movie to be made about Inxs, the good rock movie that needs to be made about Inxs and the band.
You mean like? Sorry, do you mean like in terms of like a Hollywood production?
Perhaps a movie, a real,
like they did with the Doors. You mean?
Perhaps,
yeah. I agree with you. I mean, they're very underrated as a band, I believe.
Hugely. I mean, they were uber huge in America, and then they're kind of forgotten. They had that reality show where they were auditioning lead singers. Then that got them a little bit of air, a little bit of heat. You're wincing a little bit. Is that a bit, you didn't like that?
You know what? Not to go off on a tangent, but I'm about to here. I do not believe that. I mean, it was done with Mark Burnett as executive producer. It had all the trademarks of American Idol all over it.
Yeah.
In that, you're chosen as the winner. You're obligated contractually to do one album for Sony or for whatever company, and then of a pop in the pop market, and then you're dropped. It's like if the album doesn't take off, then you're done. There was something organic in being in a band, forming a band, coming up through the ranks, gigging, paying your dues, and then coming out and doing the best you can and getting acceptance. This to me, I'm sorry, that to me at the time in 2005, I think it was, just smacked of hype.
Yeah, and poor JD Fortune. I mean, the guy could sing. He had swagger, but he was sort of, he was up there for a while and then not in the band any longer. And
I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know.
He was swept. It's like a very quick sugar hit. These reality shows. He got swept, but there was no longevity. And personally, I think they were looking for a singer. They definitely were looking for a singer, and they had a very inspired choice as a singer in Terence Trent D'Arby. Remember him?
Could sing, please. He'd do a solo, the chandelier would fall. I mean, like, hello.
Yeah, they had him as a special guest vocalist to do a round of songs when they opened the Olympic Stadium in Sydney.
I remember that.
And I was listening to that and I thought, wow, that is perfect. They stick with this guy, give this a run. This could have been like the Sammy Hagar, the successful replacement singer, because his voice matched them, but it didn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
And they went for a variety of singers. They had John Stevens from Noiseworks, which may not be well known. And then they had this reality show shtick. I watched it.
More like
probably
shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And yeah, I'm not a big fan of it in any shape or form.
It just seems contrived.
Yep.
It's like, okay, you're gonna stand, JD, you're gonna stand here, you're gonna sing this, the band's gonna play that, you're gonna react at this point and whatever, and it's all gonna fall into place.
You're not an equal band member. So no.
You're a hired hand, do what they say and shut up and look pretty.
Yeah. So. Getting back to this song, sorry about the diversion. Same direction. I had it as very Kraftwerk sounding. You got that really heavy synth sequence line.
Yeah.
And then you've got these really crazy unhinged guitar lines or licks, which I like.
Yeah.
Synth drums, maybe. And then it really funks out. So it's a bit of a dance floor filler for them.
Yeah.
And, you know, these guys love to funk it out. They always had that sort of the tendency to really go to the funk side of rock. And this one is definitely in spades.
Yeah, this one is no exception. And it must be said too, the drums are treated like they are treated in terms of mixing, in terms of post-production, and in terms of the sound of the drums.
Yes, very
they are treated up to yin yang. I don't know what they did in terms of how they did it, but that they are very much treated in quotes. Let's put it that way. Moving.
What about the next one? We're coming to the business end. One by One. What do you think of that one?
I think it's a playful track. I like the rhythm arrangement of it. And it's basically a relationship song. It's like he's saying to whoever, whatever happens, if you need me, I'll still be there. However you're going to treat me, whether good or bad, I will be there for you. But then he kind of says too, without saying it, and whether you know it or not, you're going to need me in the end. I kind of get that feeling from it, but I could be wrong. But the album just sort of, forgive me, this album is good, but for me, this is where the songs start to peter out just a little bit, somewhat, not to a great extent.
Yeah, I like this song. I understand it's not at that level, that level of side one, but there's still a lot to enjoy inside too. And One by One, it's got a bit of a bluesy, sleazy burlesque feel to it. I put it in the same class as maybe Simply Irresistible by Robert Palmer. There were a lot of these that were a little bit slower down, and it had kind of a burlesque feel to it.
Kind of has a slinky feel to it in the
a bit sleazy burlesque,
with the horns.
And I can, and Hutchins is just crooning over it, and
the only
I
thing,
like it.
I do like it, but I mean the only thing missing in the arrangement is the dance pole in the middle of the stage. It's a very slinky, very sort of I don't want to say sleazy, but it's got that grit to it.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's good. I mean. But compared to what you need and listen to our track, etc., you do kind of feel like it's the longer you go, like the further you go in the album, you're sort of petering out slightly.
Well, talking about petering out, whether you think it does or not, we finish with the final song on the album, which is Red, Red Sun.
Yeah. Red Red Sun, what do I have in my notes here? Fast-paced album closer with nice slapping bass from Mr. Beers and swirling guitar runs on the album from Andrew, I believe it is. No, from Tim. Sorry, because Tim was lead guitar, right?
Yeah, look, there's a few of them that can play guitar, so it's easy to sort of, is it? Yeah, but
but I believe it was Tim that did the lead guitar mostly. He does some guitar runs. Because in the mix they were kind of like they panned them like from left to right channel. So I mean, he did some great guitar work on that.
Yes,
yes, almost. I don't want to say. I could say Zappa-esque in that, just sort of weird, hollow guitar runs and sort of weird techniques. But it's a good song. It's a good way to end the album. It's a fast-paced, like I said, a fast-paced album.
Heavy. I think it's their heaviest song ever. The band is really going for it. It's very up-tempo. The most valuable player on this song, I think, is the drummer, John Farris. He's going off.
He's got really going. He keeps it pulsating. He keeps it going from start to finish.
His drumming on this album is sublime. It's really, he's in the pocket. But this song, he is just absolutely going off. I love towards the end, there's a little bit of avant-garde sax, a little bit freeform.
Yeah.
And that little middle bit, I forgot, in the middle section where there's a bit of the slap bass and guitar interplay.
Interplaying.
This is the band being experimental. They're putting their pop hat off and saying, let's just go for it. Let's just be a little bit free. Yeah, be a bit freeform. And I really like this as a closing track. It's different.
It is different. It is very different. I mean, in my closing notes, and what do I have? The album overall has a harder edge sound with drums, with drum treatments and guitars. There are 2 tracks that have that sort of dance beat, really like full drum sound, like 4/4, like disco kind of beat to it. That being Listen Like Thieves and for me, my opinion, Listen Like Thieves and Kiss the Dirt, Falling Down a Mountain. But it has new wave elements and spots.
Yes,
actually, all over the freaking album, really.
Absolutely. So, what are your final comments? What do you think of this album, Armando?
I think it's a good album. I think you and I are totally in sync when we said that Shine Like It Does should have been moved to side 2, and this time should have been left as track number track 5, because I mean, no, Shine Like It Does. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, my mistake. We were going to move Good and Bad Times to side 2 and replace that with this time. I believe that had you done that, you would have had a top-notch first side that would have kept the public's interest, which it did. I mean, the album sold 3 million copies worldwide. I mean, it was no slouch. So it's a fantastic piece of work, very consistent with what they were doing at the time. I believe that they thought that these were the best songs that they could write at the time, which any band believes that they do most of the time. I mean, you do get the odd band that will release an album and like a year later, it's like, oh, that album was nothing like what we wanted it to be like, But I believe that they believed that this was what they could do at their best at that point in time. I do believe this album, for me, is a stepping stone to what would come next with Kick.
Yes.
But no, overall, I think it's a fantastic album. Kick was a monster, a beast all in its own right. It was a good, just my very politically controversial view on Kick at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, is Kick is a good album. It's a fantastic album, but it does suffer from oversaturation in terms of single releases.
Yes, success can be a
double-edged sword.
lead weight. sort of thing. So
Um,
yeah,
but
not
I do. I mean, and let me just qualify that. I mean, very quickly, please, indulge me for just a minute. Kick was released, and from the get-go, Need You Tonight, Devil Inside, New Sensation, Never Tear Us Apart, all these singles that were released. Meditate, that was released as a double side, single, like extended form video with Need You Tonight. I do believe that with an album, you can release maybe too many singles off an album because, I mean, my personal opinion, I'm probably going to get slammed in the comments, but my personal opinion is if you take an album and you say release maybe 2 or 3 singles that to you best represent what the album is about, it will draw the audience in and they'll go buy the album. If you release an album and you have, say, 11 songs and 5 singles are released, people are going to say, well, why do I need to buy the album if the singles are out? I'll just go get the singles.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was following the Michael Jackson Thriller, which everyone was chasing the dragon, so to speak, because Michael Jackson wanted to release, his goal was to release every single song as a single. And that's one of the most successful LPs. I mean, the 80s was the LP age. The record sales were absolutely phenomenal. You could have an album that would hit number 50 in the US charts, but still attain gold status. It's just, in today's age, to look back at those stats, it's beyond belief. But I think that the record industry was definitely following that model of Thriller and just putting as many singles as they could so they could get maximum sales. But I understand your point regarding the saturation.
Yeah.
But
because I mean, like, if you want to look at the Thriller for a second, you had 9 songs on Thriller. 7 of those were released as singles. 7 out of 9. And the argument again could be made, why am I going to buy the album when I can go out and buy the singles?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's a saying, there's almost like too much is too much. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just, it doesn't make any sense. But I mean, that's, ladies and gentlemen, that is my opinion. That's not Peter's opinion. Do not come down on him. You can come down on him.
It's all good. I appreciate your opinion and nice take. I guess I'll wrap up from my perspective. In respect of the Inxs catalog, so many great albums. For me, I think my favorite albums are either The Swing, which I have a lot of emotional attachment to, and in later years, this one. I think this is a really, really fine album. With Kick, I think there is a little bit of filler on it, but the singles on this album are so outstanding, people forget there are some filler tracks. So, but in summary, I love Listen Like Thieves. I think it's a great album. Armando, thank you yet again. You bring it home every time, and look forward to our next deep album dive. I'm sure we're going to be talking after the show what we're going to be plotting next. Please, viewers,
looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Please, viewers, please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. Plenty of content. You can see Armando on Sea of Tranquility, and we will have a show very soon. Cheers.
Have a good day.